everyone, Tori here, and welcome back to another video on Spyro. Now I can't do a top 10 list of my favourite Spyro realms and not do the exact opposite afterwards. So today I present you with my top 10 least favourite realms from the original Spyro Trilogy. Least favourite is really not the best way to put this, as most of these realms I do still enjoy playing through for various reasons. It's just there's something about them that makes me go, oh, let's just get this over and done with. Now I'm a bit worried about making this list, as talking about stuff you don't enjoy in a game always gets people sharpening their pitchforks. I'm especially concerned as a lot of you who commented on my last video with your favourite realms mentioned some I don't particularly enjoy, but I want to make it clear that I don't think any of these realms are downright awful, just that I'm personally not a big fan of them for whatever reason. Well, some of them might be terrible, but not all of them. Like I said in the previous video, this could be because of design, fun factor, or in this case lack of, characters, enemies, and so on. Also, I'd love to hear which realms make you audibly groan with frustration, so let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, let's kick off this list with number 10, which will be Haunted Tombs from Spyro 3. Out of all the realms that appear on this list, Haunted Tombs is the most controversial for me because I genuinely love travelling through this realm, a point I think I made a number of times during my Spyro live streams. I'm always a sucker for anything related to Egyptian mythology and architecture, so Haunted Tombs already gets a big green tick in my book. Couple in the doggy inhabitants, hilarious enemies and the challenging riddles, at least to 8-year-old me, and you've got an interesting realm to explore. What lets Haunted Tombs down, unfortunately, is the god-awful minigames. I don't struggle with them too much as an adult, but as a kid I could spend a good long while on the demolition hovercraft minigame alone. Oh boy, this one made me rage. Then there are the 5 deadly trials of King Rover, another one that I can cheese quite easily as an adult, but had me pulling my hair out as a kid. Also not helped by the fact I was never a big fan of Agent 9 to begin with. His aiming feels so wonky. Sorry if you guys are a fan of the monkey. The last thing I hated in Haunted Tombs was the snake slide. It's not the worst one in Spyro 3, but that's not saying much when you don't enjoy either of them. I can never position Spyro properly and always end up missing a gem or falling off the edge. Such fun. Regardless of the negative points I have for this realm, I do still enjoy visiting it and taking in that sweet Egyptian aesthetic, hence why it's not further down the list. I'm very curious to see where this one will stand once I've played through Reignited. Moving on to number 9, and we have Spooky Swamp, again from Spyro 3. This is going to be a very short entry as there's really only one reason Spooky Swamp made the list. No prizes for guessing why. It's of course that bloody Firefly escort mission. Possibly the worst minigame in the entire Spyro 3. Well, maybe not the worst, but you know what I mean. It's a shame Spooky Swamp evokes such frustration in me when I visit it, because if it weren't for that one minigame, this realm could have possibly made my top 10 favourite realms list. Everything else about this place is fantastic. The haiku-speaking fireflies are odd, but certainly memorable. The enemies never fail to get a chuckle out of me, especially the charging, chomping gators. And the Sleepyhead mini-boss battle is one of the better ones in Spyro 3. And can we just take a moment to appreciate not only the design of Spooky Swamp, but that brilliant musical score too. I can definitely see myself enjoying this realm a lot more in Reignited, if they could just make that escort minigame, what's the word? Oh yeah, fun. At number 8, we have Wizard Peak from Spyro 1. I'm torn with this one, because while I feel the reasons for putting it here aren't justified, especially as I don't have too many issues with it as an adult, at the same time I can't forget how much rage I had for Wizard Peak as a kid. To be honest, I could say that about a lot of the entries on this list. Some really don't deserve to be labelled least favourite, but given I love most of the realms in the entire trilogy, making a top 10 least favourite list is extremely difficult. And hey, I've got to choose something. Anyway, back to the realm at hand. No matter how often I played through Spyro 1, I would always grit my teeth coming to Wizard Peak because I could never remember how to get that bloody wizard up on the ledge. Bearing in mind every realm I visited up until now, I would dash straight on ahead. It never occurred to me on first playthrough that I could make my way around the back of Wizard Peak via the mountainside ledges. which is necessary in order to get to that pesky out of reach wizard. Even on other playthroughs, when I knew exactly what to do, there would always be one gem I failed to pick up somewhere that would prevent me from 100%ing the realm. And given there are so many areas to explore here, the back of the realm, the platforms that require supercharge to reach, the too high to glide ledges, you can imagine how long it took to find that last gem. Like I said, it's not the most justified reason for Wizard Peak to be on the list, and I do think the realm itself is fairly well designed, and its enemies hilarious. But given it's my least favourite realm of the Magic Crafter's homeworld, I'm going to stick with it for now. Sorry Wizard Peak lovers. At number 7, I'm going to have to go with Treetops, again from Spyro 1. Now, if I wrote this list as a kid, I could have easily placed Treetops in the number 1 spot for many reasons. 6-year-old me thought the realm design was ugly, the enemies absolutely terrifying, the constant supercharging tedious, and for a time, I genuinely thought it was impossible to 100% Treetops because I couldn't work out how to reach that one platform far off in the distance. Bearing in mind I had no internet and no nifty guidebook to tell me what to do, so I had to rely on my tiny stupid 6-year-old brain to figure it out. I still don't know how I managed it. For both the footage here and the live stream I did a couple of months ago, I was completely lost as to what to do. I knew it was some combination of supercharge ramps, but I'd always go the wrong way. Thank goodness I have the internet now and you guys to tell me what to do. The reason Treetops is only in the number 7 spot is because as an adult, I have a lot more appreciation for the realm as a whole. Whereas I find most of the Beastmaker's realms hideous to look at, given their swampy palette of browns, dark greens and muddy greys, I think it works well here in Treetops. And while I'm usually the first person to crumble anytime a game offers some form of a challenge, yes, I'm a lazy gamer who just likes to enjoy the story and finish a game, Treetops is most certainly a breath of fresh air compared to the usually simplistic level design of Spyro realms. The enemies do still give me the heebie-jeebies though, just slightly less than they did 20 years ago. Moving on to number 6, and we have Sunny Beach from Spyro 2. Now we've finally come to a realm that I just don't enjoy playing through, even to this day. Which is a shame, because it's certainly not the worst realm in the game. I think the goal of Sunny Beach is an admirable one, guiding the baby turtles to safety, and I have to admit, the little tykes are quite cute. But then I stop and think, hang on, these are humanoid turtles, and yet we have normal looking turtles in this realm which are treated like cattle. What the heck is going on? Honestly, I hate it when games, films, TV shows, anything does this. Yeah, you could argue it's no different than humans and apes, but at least both of those creatures are intelligent to begin with. Whereas as far as I know, turtles aren't known for their brain power. So to see a race of quite clearly intelligent turtle beings who understand the concept of a monarchy, that treat the lesser stupid turtles like cattle, yeah, I find that very odd. Then the game confuses me even more when it comes to the chef minigame, as Advisor Moppet refers to the normal looking turtles as babies as well. I thought the humanoid ones were your babies. Speaking of which, I really didn't enjoy the turtle soup minigame. It's not as bad now I'm older and have better gaming reflexes, but as a kid it was so tough to complete, especially with that irritating camera angle and suddenly awkward controls. Also, I'm sorry, but if your baby turtles are stupid enough to jump into a boiling pot one after the other, they deserve to die. Halfway through the list, and at number 5, we have Scorch, again from Spyro 2. Oh boy, where do I start with this one? Well, for starters, desert-inspired realms are probably my least favourite design-wise. Unless they have something unique about them, such as a Lara Croft homage or dinosaurs and lava, they tend to be very bland and boring. Look, there's some sand! And over there, yet more sand. Ooh wee! Then there's Handel and Greta. Ooh. As exciting as it was to see the duo crop up in Spyro 3's fireworks factory, yay for cameos! I still find these two incredibly creepy. Funnily enough, this is one instance in the Spyro Trilogy where I actually hate something more as an adult than I did as a kid. 7-year-old me thought Handel and Greta were hilarious with their bright orange clothes and baby talk. Adult me, however, finds them obnoxious. And for apparently being super secret spies, Handel was dumb enough to fall for the old levitating lollipop trick. At least Greta has some brains about her. But the one thing I hate more than anything else in Scorch is this guy, Bombo. What a tool. This has got to be one of Spyro 2's most frustrating minigames. It's incredibly difficult to avoid those orbs he throws. So imagine my horror when I completed his flag challenge, only to find out I had to do it 2 more times. Ugh! Moving on to number 4, and we have Seashell Shore from Spyro 3. What? Another water-based realm like Sunny Beach? You just hate aquatic creatures, don't you, Tori? Actually, I don't. Aquaria Towers from Spyro 2 is a brilliant realm in my opinion, and one I'm definitely looking forward to in Reignited. I loved the seahorse inhabitants, I thought the enemies were both hilarious and terrifying, cough cough robotic sharks, and the whole concept of filling up each area with water to progress further through the realm was an interesting mechanic. Seashell Shore, on the other hand, I just don't care for it. For starters, and I know this is a kid's game and real-world logic doesn't stand here, but the seal inhabitants are incredibly stupid in my opinion. First they steal the Rhinox submarine and crash it into some rocks, which, you know, could have killed them or some other poor unfortunate soul, but who cares when you're having fun, right? Then they want to blow up the Rhinox fortress, which is fair enough. We want rid of the Rhinox after all, but blowing it up while one of the seals stays inside, with one of the dragon eggs in his pocket? What a reckless thing to do! And when you think it can't get any worse, one of the seals uses another dragon egg to test their ultra high-speed super fluidity tunnel. So not only does this little git risk the life of yet another baby dragon, he also can't retrieve the egg. Which of course means I have to do it. And let me tell you, I hate this minigame with a passion. Seriously, I cannot stand the seal inhabitants and would happily leave them to rot in that jail cell for all eternity. Speaking of minigames, I don't enjoy any of them. The only other realm this applies to is Haunted Tombs as far as I recall, but at least I like other things about that place. Again, this is more from childhood memory, but I struggled with every single one of Seashell Shore's minigames. I could never complete the fortress or tunnel minigame in one go, and the Bluto mini boss fight was incredibly difficult for 8-year-old me. Not to mention that shark submarine of his was, and still is, absolutely terrifying to behold. Oh, I hope this one is better in Reignited. We're at the final hurdle now, and at number 3 we have Dry Canyon from Spyro 1. This one makes the list because, well, it's incredibly boring, to be honest. I get the impression that all of the effort spent designing the Peacekeeper realms went into Ice Cavern and Cliff Town, because the rest are fairly drab. But Dry Canyon is definitely the worst of the bunch in my opinion. The design of this place is so generic, and if it hadn't been for the new enemies or different coloured skybox, I'd have assumed Dry Canyon was an extension of the Peacekeeper's homeworld, rather than a completely separate realm. And given we're down a ravine, it's no surprise that the majority of Dry Canyon's colour palette is brown. Just lots and lots of brown. But don't worry, there's the occasional puddle of purple goop to drown Spyro in, when you get sick and tired of this place. At least it has some fairly decent gliding sections. The other reason I don't like this place is because of that bloody thief right at the beginning. I don't know what it is, but every time I chase after the little bugger, I can't catch him for a good 2 minutes or so. In fact, the footage I've recorded here doing just that was almost 3 minutes long. Gotta go so fast like Sonic! Regardless of the meh design and irritating thief, the rest of Dry Canyon is okay. The enemies are amusing, especially the bird wranglers who swing the vultures around as weapons, and listening to Ivor talk almost makes up for the disappointment. Almost.
Is that you, Spyro? Are you the young dragon I've been hearing so much about?
It's still an incredibly boring place to explore in my opinion, and is definitely one of those realms I wouldn't shed a tear for if it was removed completely from Reignited. And the runner-up at number 2 is going to be Lost Fleet from Spyro 3. I'm starting to wonder if the third game truly is my favourite, because there seem to be a lot of its realms on this list. The biggest gripe I have with Lost Fleet is being limited on where I can go due to the pools of acid making it impossible for Spyro to swim. Sure, you can pick up invincibility once you reach the end of the realm, but this just makes exploring Lost Fleet even more tedious when you realise half the gems are scattered in all the pools of acid, and the invincibility only lasts about 25 seconds. Because everybody loves backtracking. The next thing I'm not a fan of is Hunter's skateboard racing minigame. While I enjoy the skateboard minigames for the most part, especially the one in Enchanted Towers, I find this one long-winded and monotonous. To be fair, I've never been a big fan of racing games, so I was already going into this one with a big frown on my face. But having to do not 1, but 2 races, with a second requiring me not just to win against Hunter, but to also take out all the crabs on the course. Oh! And if I thought the racing minigame was tiresome, imagine my surprise when I came across the submarine minigame on my first playthrough. Bloody hell, this one is bad. The locking arm mechanism is finicky at best, and not helped by the fact the red submarines can apparently do a 180-degree turn at random. And because Lost Fleet obviously needed more padding, you have to do the exact same minigame again. Only this time, the enemy submarines drop sea mines. so you have to keep at least one eye open as you inevitably doze off doing this challenge. The last thing I'm going to whinge about is the enemies. While I did find the ghost Rhinox slightly amusing, I was seriously confused as to why they were revealed to be normal Rhinox wearing diapers. I mean, what's the connection to ghosts and diaper-wearing baby enemies? Have I missed the joke here or something? And don't get me started on the copy-paste crabs from Aquaria Towers. I mean, could we have at least got a different colour version or something? Yeesh. And finally, at number 1, I'm going to have to go with Terrace Village from Spyro 1. Out of all the realms on the list, this one makes the top spot because I genuinely forgot it existed. It is that boring of a realm for me. Nothing about Terrace Village appeals to me in any way. For starters, the realm design is absolutely hideous. I know the Beastmaker's realms aren't meant to be bright and beautiful like Magic Crafters or Dreamweavers, but this place feels like it had no effort put into it at all. Like Dry Canyon, Terrace Village feels like an extension of its homeworld rather than a completely separate realm, but at least the former had new enemies to fight. We've dealt with these Norks in Beastmakers before, so what gives? And while that technically does apply to other realms in the game, such as Magic Crafters and their druids, at least those enemies were hilarious to watch as they messed around with magic or ran around in a blind panic. These guys do nothing exciting. Oh look, he zapped the floor. Oh look, he stopped zapping the floor. Amazing. The architecture isn't much to rave about either. Now, I could have sworn I've seen these buildings elsewhere. Oh right, Clifftown. I mean, did Insomniac Games just go, yeah, just put Clifftown back in and make it grey? Yeah, more grey. Oh, and change the skybox to green. Perfect. By the way, don't take that as me hating on Clifftown. I think that realm is brilliant. I just get the impression that Terrace Village is a crappier version of it. Speaking of enemies, things don't get much better in that regard. I mean, my goodness. How uninterested were the devs when they came up with these guys? I already mentioned the Norks that zap the floor to electrocute Spyro, but we also have bigger Norks that can also zap Spyro with electricity. Oh, but don't forget the metal-plated Norks that can... The last thing that makes me despise Terrace Village with every fibre of my being is that there will always be at least one gem I've forgotten in this realm, which usually, you know, isn't an issue because it's fun to backtrack and get a look at the realm from the opposite direction. But this place, I just want it over as soon as possible so I can go back to forgetting it. Let's hope Reignited can save this realm from my number 1 spot. So there you have it, my top 10 least favourite realms from the original Spyro Trilogy. I hope I didn't knock people too much with my choices. Like I said, apart from a couple entries on this list, I don't necessarily hate any of them. And indeed, some of these realms still have something interesting about them that keeps me coming back. And as I said before, I'd love to hear which realms you're not particularly fond of yourself. So let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as it really helps me out. And before I go, shout out to my biggest Patreon supporters, Razak, Albert Rodriguez, Austin Rosenbaum, Thomas Hinton, Ross Ward, Frosty Dragon, and Connor Strange. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in whatever I play or talk about next. Bye bye!